When I first heard that I was going to Canada, I could hardly believe it. It felt like a dream, one of those dreams that seemed too big to come true. I had always seen pictures of Canada online: snowy mountains, beautiful cities, and wide open spaces. But I never imagined that one day I would actually travel there. It all started one quiet evening when my father called me into the living room. His face looked serious but also excited. My mother was sitting beside him with a gentle smile. "We have some good news," my father said. "What is it?" I asked nervously. "You're going to Canada," he replied. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My heart started beating fast. Canada? The country of snow and maple leaves? I had so many questions in my mind. "Really?" I finally said. My parents nodded. My father explained that he had received a job opportunity there and our whole family would move together. At first, I felt excited, but a little sad too. I would have to leave my friends, my school, and the place where I had grown up. The next few weeks passed quickly. We packed our clothes, books, and memories into suitcases. I said goodbye to my friends, teachers, and relatives. Everyone wished me good luck and told me to enjoy my new life. Finally, the day of our journey arrived. It was my first time traveling on an airplane. When the plane took off, I looked out the window and watched the city become smaller and smaller. The clouds looked like white cotton floating in the sky. After many hours of flying, the captain announced that we were arriving in Canada. I pressed my face against the window. Everything looked different. The land was covered with snow, shining under the sunlight. When we stepped outside the airport, a cold wind touched my face. I had never felt such cold weather before. I quickly zipped up my jacket and laughed. "Welcome to Canada," my father said with a smile. The city was beautiful. The roads were wide, the buildings were tall, and everything looked clean and organized. Cars moved smoothly, and people walked quickly with warm coats and hats. A few days later, I started my new school. I was nervous on my first day. Everything felt unfamiliar: the language, the classrooms, and the people. But my teacher was kind and welcoming. "Class, this is our new student," she said. "Please make them feel comfortable." A girl sitting near the window smiled and waved at me. Her name was Emma. She helped me understand the school rules and showed me around the building. Soon we became good friends. One weekend, Emma's family invited us to visit a nearby park. It was winter, and the ground was covered with thick snow. Emma handed me a pair of gloves and said, "Let's build a snowman." It was my first time touching snow. It felt cold and soft at the same time. We rolled the snow into big balls and stacked them together. Then we added stones for eyes and a carrot for the nose. Our snowman looked funny, but we were proud of it. Another exciting experience was seeing snowfall for the first time. One evening, I looked outside the window and noticed tiny white flakes falling slowly from the sky. The street lights made them sparkle like stars. "Snow!" I shouted. I ran outside with my family. We stood quietly as snowflakes landed on our coats and hair. It was magical. Life in Canada slowly became comfortable. I learned new things every day. I improved my English, made new friends, and explored different places. We visited museums, lakes, and beautiful mountains. One summer, we traveled to a famous waterfall called Niagara Falls. The sound of the water was powerful, and the mist filled the air. Standing there, I realized how big and beautiful the world truly is. Sometimes I missed my old home and friends. I missed the warm weather, the familiar streets, and the memories of my childhood. But Canada had also become a part of my life. It taught me courage, independence, and the joy of discovering new cultures. One evening, while watching the sunset over a quiet lake, my father said something I will never forget. "Life is a journey," he said. "Sometimes we must travel far to find new opportunities and new happiness." I looked around at the peaceful scenery, the water, the trees, and the golden sky. I realized that moving to Canada was not just a trip, it was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. And deep inside my heart, I knew that this journey would shape my future forever. After living in Canada for a few months, things slowly started to feel more familiar. At first, everything had seemed strange: the language, the weather, the people, and even the food. But day by day, I began to understand this new country better. School became easier for me. In the beginning, I struggled to follow the lessons because everyone spoke English very fast. Sometimes I felt embarrassed when I couldn't answer a question in class, but my teacher was patient and my classmates were kind. Emma, my first friend at school, helped me a lot. She would explain homework, help me practice English, and even introduce me to her other friends. Soon, I was sitting with a small group of students during lunch every day. We talked, laughed, and shared stories about our lives. One day, Emma asked me, "Have you ever tried ice skating?" I shook my head. "No, never." She smiled excitedly. "Then you must try it. It's very popular here in winter." The following weekend, Emma's family took me to a big ice skating rink. I wore special skates for the first time in my life. When I stepped onto the ice, I almost fell immediately. Everyone laughed, including me. "It's okay," Emma said, holding my hand. "Just keep your balance." Slowly, I learned how to glide across the ice. At first, I moved like a baby deer, but after some practice, I started to feel more confident. The cold air, the bright lights, and the laughter of people around us made the moment unforgettable. Winter in Canada was long and very cold, but it was also beautiful. The streets looked like a winter wonderland. Trees were covered with snow, and houses were decorated with colorful lights. Then December arrived, and everyone started preparing for Christmas. I had never celebrated Christmas before, so everything felt new and exciting. Our neighbors invited us to their Christmas dinner. Their house smelled delicious, filled with the aroma of roasted turkey and sweet desserts. A tall Christmas tree stood in the corner, decorated with shining ornaments and blinking lights. They even gave me a small gift. When I opened it, I found a warm scarf with a maple leaf pattern. I smiled and thanked them. It was one of the kindest gestures I had ever received. Months passed, and soon winter slowly turned into spring. The snow melted, and green leaves began to grow on the trees. Parks filled with flowers, and birds returned with cheerful songs. Canada looked completely different without snow. One sunny afternoon, my family decided to visit a large park near our home. People were walking their dogs, riding bicycles, and enjoying picnics. Children were playing happily on the grass. I sat beside a small lake and watched the water reflect the bright blue sky. In that quiet moment, I realized something important. Canada no longer felt like a strange place. It felt like home. I had new friends, new experiences, and new dreams. I was learning not only about a new country, but also about myself. Moving to Canada had been scary at first, but it had opened the door to many opportunities. As the sun slowly set over the lake Emma suddenly ran toward me with excitement. "Guess what?" she said. "What?" I asked. "Our school is organizing a summer trip to the Rocky Mountains." My eyes widened with excitement. I had seen pictures of those mountains before, but visiting them in real life would be incredible. That moment made me realize something again. My journey in Canada was far from over. In fact, the greatest adventures were still waiting ahead. A few weeks after Emma told me about the school trip, everyone in class was excited. Our teacher announced that we would travel to the famous Rocky Mountains for a 3-day adventure. For many students, it was just a fun school trip, but for me, it felt like a dream coming true. I had never seen huge mountains in real life before. I had only seen them in pictures and videos. Now I was finally going to visit them. The day of the trip arrived early on a bright summer morning. A large yellow school bus waited in front of the school. Students were laughing, carrying backpacks, and talking excitedly about the journey. I sat beside Emma on the bus. "Are you ready for the adventure?" she asked with a big smile. "Of course," I replied. "I've been waiting for this for weeks." As the bus left the city, the view outside the window slowly began to change. Tall buildings disappeared, and wide green fields appeared instead. Rivers flowed peacefully beside the road, and forests stretched far into the distance. After many hours of traveling, we finally saw them, the Rocky Mountains. They were enormous and majestic, rising high into the sky. Their peaks were covered with snow, even though it was summer. I pressed my face against the window, amazed by their beauty. "Wow," I whispered. Emma laughed. "I told you they were amazing." When we arrived at the campsite near the mountains, the fresh air felt cool and clean. Birds were singing, and the sound of wind moved gently through the tall trees. Our teacher divided us into small groups for activities. We went hiking along a mountain trail. The path was surrounded by tall pine trees, colorful wildflowers, and clear streams. While walking, our guide explained many interesting things about nature and wildlife in Canada. He told us about bears, deer, and eagles that lived in the mountains. Everyone listened carefully, but also looked around, hoping to see some animals. Later that afternoon, we reached a beautiful viewpoint. From there, we could see an enormous valley below us. A blue lake shined in the sunlight like a mirror. The view was breathtaking. Emma stood beside me and said, "Sometimes I come here with my family. It always makes me feel peaceful." I nodded slowly. "It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen." That evening, we returned to the campsite. The teachers prepared a campfire, and everyone gathered around it. The warm orange flames danced in the dark night, while the sky above us filled with countless stars. I had never seen so many stars before. Some students told funny stories, others sang songs, and we roasted marshmallows over the fire. The sweet smell of toasted marshmallows mixed with the cool mountain air. At one point, our teacher asked everyone to share something about themselves. When it was my turn, I stood up and looked around at my classmates. "Before coming to Canada," I said, "I was very nervous. I thought everything would be difficult. I missed my old home and friends, but now I feel very lucky to be here." Everyone listened quietly. I have learned so many new things, met amazing people, and seen beautiful places like this. Canada has given me many unforgettable memories. Emma smiled proudly. The next morning, we went canoeing on the lake. The water was calm and clear. Mountains reflected on the surface like giant paintings. As we paddled slowly across the lake, I felt completely peaceful. It was one of those rare moments when everything felt perfect. Before leaving the mountains, I took one last look at the breathtaking landscape. I knew I would never forget this place. On the bus ride back to the city, I leaned against the window and thought about everything that had happened since I arrived in Canada. The new school, new friends, snow, Christmas, ice skating, and now this incredible mountain adventure. My journey in Canada had changed me. I was no longer the nervous person who had stepped off the airplane months ago. I had grown stronger, more confident, and more curious about the world. But deep inside my heart, I also felt that an even bigger moment in my life was coming soon. After returning from the Rocky Mountains, life in Canada continued to move forward. Summer slowly passed, and the cool air of autumn began to arrive. The trees changed colors, turning bright red, orange, and yellow. The streets looked like beautiful paintings made by nature. School became busier as the new term started. I was no longer the shy new student anymore. I could speak English more confidently, and I had many friends in my class. My teachers often praised my hard work and progress. One afternoon, our teacher made an important announcement. Next month, our school will hold an international cultural festival, she said. Students from different countries can share their culture, food, and traditions. The whole class became excited. Emma turned toward me and said, "You should represent your country." At first, I felt nervous. Speaking in front of many people was not easy for me. But then I thought about my journey, from leaving my home country to building a new life in Canada. Maybe this was my chance to share my story. So I decided to participate. For the next few weeks, I prepared carefully. My parents helped me choose traditional clothes and taught me how to explain our culture and traditions. I also prepared a short speech about my journey to Canada. Finally, the day of the festival arrived. The school hall was decorated with flags from many countries. Tables were filled with colorful foods, crafts, and pictures from around the world. Students proudly represented their cultures. When it was my turn to speak, my heart started beating fast. I stepped onto the stage and looked at the audience. My teachers, friends, and parents were all watching. I took a deep breath and began. "Hello, everyone. My name is, and I came to Canada from another country. When I first arrived, everything felt strange and new. I missed my home, my friends, and the place where I grew up." The room became quiet as everyone listened. "But Canada welcomed me with kindness," I continued. "I met wonderful friends, learned new things, and experienced many beautiful moments, from my first snowfall to visiting the Rocky Mountains." I paused for a moment and smiled. Canada gave me a new home, but it also helped me understand something important. Our world is full of different cultures, and every culture is beautiful. When I finished speaking, the audience clapped loudly. I saw Emma cheering and my parents smiling proudly. That moment meant a lot to me. Later that evening, as I walked home with my family, the sunset painted the sky with warm colors. The cool autumn wind gently moved through the trees. My father looked at me and said, "We are very proud of you." I smiled softly. "Thank you," I replied. As I looked around the peaceful neighborhood, I realized something that I had not fully understood before. Canada was no longer just a place where we had moved. It had become a part of who I was. The journey had not always been easy. There were moments of fear, loneliness, and uncertainty, but those challenges helped me grow stronger and braver. Every experience, the snow, the mountains, the friendships, and the new opportunities had shaped my life in ways I never expected. That night, before going to sleep, I looked out of my window at the quiet street. The moonlight reflected softly on the trees, and everything felt calm. I thought about my past, my present, and my future. Then I whispered to myself with a smile, "This is just the beginning of my story. because deep inside my heart, I knew that the journey of discovering the world and myself would continue for many more years to come.